Hello and welcome to Game Soup with Chloe and Kayla. I'm Kayla Dice, and this is a game design podcast where we throw ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. How are you doing today, Chloe?
Go buy my games on itch.io. No. I am, let's say, suffering in the bank department due to car troubles. So, I mean, we spoke about this last week, but we just took the car into the garage and it's looking expensive. So,
Yeah, you said there's like an outside chance it may not be as expensive as you planned,
yeah,
but you should still go on Chloe's itch.
it might not be the clutch, it might just be the pedal, but that still costs money. So, there will be a link in the description. It'll sell on everything. Also got our first hate comment on Goblin Country, so that's fun. Only been out 5 years, but
damn. Off of the sale, you think, or just an unrelated random hate comment?
They actually said that we put it into the No Ice in Minnesota bundle.
Right.
Which is like maybe 100 or 1,000 odd games for charity. I want to say I couldn't tell you how much it is, but you know, it's not much for the amount of stuff you're getting.
Yeah.
But the editor fell asleep on the job. This game, in scare quotes, is lacking several concepts that seem vital to actually running it. Forget the 5 years of people actually having ran it without any issue, but, you know.
Wild. I think sometimes the responses of people who buy games in large charity bundles makes me go like, you are aware the main focus was more about the donate rather than whatever. So other than hate comments and car troubles, did you have anything fun in your week gone?
I watched like the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Yeah, I mean, I've watched some of the more recent Star Trek, so I was like, right, I should just watch the old stuff. And I'm like, yeah, actually, this is good. It's like got that sort of like, you can tell it's old. Like it's very clearly made for like CRT TVs, like the way that you can see some of the painted on backgrounds and like some of the computer screens are just bits of cards, so they're not like shining on people's faces. But it's decent. Skip the racist episodes and you'll have a good time.
Yeah, I people say like the first season is the weakest of Next Generation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was like using a guide that was like, yeah, this one's bad, but you should watch it anyway. Like,
I see.
There's like 8 episodes of like 26 that is like, yeah, you should definitely watch these.
Nice.
So, look forward to me playing a Vulcan scientist in some RPG soon, I guess.
If you're one of Chloe's friends she plays RPGs with.
Yeah. Like, I've been trying to get people... Connie said she might run some Star Trek stuff, so, you know, we're pitching it.
So this is also a play research.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I can see why you'd play a Vulcan scientist.
Explain what you mean without being rude about it.
I can see how that type of character appeals to you. You know? Outsider nerd.
That's not about being rude.
Didn't say anything about you though, just said like I can see why that character archetype.
So this is a game design podcast, ostensibly. And this week on Blue Sky I posted some ideas for Courtney of the Sunflower Court's Neopets game jam, because the Neopets RPG is back in the fucking buzz, the discourse, the zeitgeist. Because the recent update was terrible. Did you read any of it? Because the beta is just freely open.
Oh yeah, and there were like comments, and then also things from contractors being like, we'd not been paid.
Yeah.
I did not read or look that deeply into any of this, but I saw, you know, I heard the sounds of a party going on.
No, reading through it is absolutely just 5e, but with Neopets on it, which is like not what I think of when I think of cozy pets ownership simulator.
And yeah, because of that, there's a game jam about alternative Neopets RPGs and you had some ideas. Because
Yeah, I mean,
we talked
yeah,
about the Neopets RPG and Neopets
months
in
ago,
general in a
yeah.
previous episode. I can't remember which, but we would talk about the thing of like you did interactive Neopets. I never did at all.
Yeah. So I think my pitches are general enough that even if you weren't
Yeah.
a Neopets kid, you should be able to like play with me in the space.
Mm.
So my first pitch is a game about reconnecting with a childhood game, toy, website, whatever, but it's changed beyond recognition because of new management or whatever. And I don't know if it's I don't want to say it's a journaling game because that feels boring and done. But
Um, but is this just slice of life where like the game is a game and
I
it's
think,
about players of a game?
yeah, I think we could like go in a sort of die direction where it's like, oh, you're coming back to this game that you were really into, but it's changed beyond recognition, and like you can kind of see glimmers of stuff like, oh, there's characters who are here, but now they're suddenly totally different. Like Optimus Prime's still the leader, but he's a totally different character, sort of thing.
Mm. So you could do
Um,
the sucked into the game thing if you wanted versus just
yeah, just talking about it. I think, yeah, and like you could have like moves like, oh, I remember this person and they were X, Y, and Z, but here's how they've changed or whatever to like sort of define the world. Like that, there's a couple of like PBTA moves that are like, tell me about your history with this place.
mm.
So I think you could do a lot of stuff with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So would you do a very Neopets-esque game world, are you thinking?
I mean, I think I'd like it to be sort of up to the players for the world, but I think you could like give a couple of like example ideas, like, oh yeah, this was like a world of monsters who were nice, but now it's been changed to be all fighty or whatever. I mean, there's certainly a pitch where this is just a class for whatever RPG you're playing, who is a long-lived character or someone who's came out of hibernation, changing to adjusting to the changed world around them.
Mm. Yeah, I could see that. Is this something you would be interested in writing?
Ah, no, but I was just kind of getting ideas out.
What was your second idea then?
My second one was you and Neopet design 12,000,006, and you're clearly never going to be anyone's favorite as all the good ones were designed 20 years ago. And it's a game of you trying to find your place in the world while all the good roles have taken.
So having heard both of these ideas, just want to ask, are you okay?
Try to find a new job, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, these ideas do sound very depression-driven game design.
I'm depression maxing. I don't know what to tell you.
I do. I can definitely look at some of my games and go, "Oh, these are very depressed games."
Yeah, I think there's certainly a space for a game that is like, yeah, no, there's no place for me in this world, and I need to wade through the muck to find out what I'm good at and whatever. But there's, yeah, I think there's maybe like this is maybe too glum. I don't know if I'd go out my way to be like, yeah, I'm going to spend £5 on a game that makes me sad.
I just think this is well, I kind of presume this game has to be a solo game, given the whole point of it seems to be about like you don't necessarily belong anywhere.
Yeah.
Which then also I'm like, oh yeah, it's just kind of a very depressing solo game
To
about
be fair,
being
this could also
alone.
be a class that goes with the other one. Uh, where, yeah, you're trying to find your place in the world, and you've also got this guy from the past in a changed world trying to find their place in it. So maybe this is just a big depressed.
Well, maybe what this
It's
game
like
is. I know you
Wander
said
Home,
about
but
game.
sad.
You said you said about game changing, and then I'm like, oh, maybe instead of a die Jumanji getting sucked in thing, maybe this is instead more of a sort of like Toy Story Wreck-It Ralph-esque thing. Wreck-It Ralph is the better comparison, where it's like you were just like the sentient characters who exist in this video game.
Yeah.
And maybe it's some kind of online world that you're then what gets up to this, as it has changed. So you play one of the classes can be someone who's been around for ages. One is a very late addition. I think there's an interesting thing where you could have, yeah, everyone is like sentient NPCs, and you could make one class, which you'd probably need to have a note on being like, hey, playing this class kind of warps the game around it. One class is a presumed player.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I do like the idea of like being NPCs in some ancient dead MMO or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I'm the priest trainer from the starting zone that nobody's spoken to in 15 years. I should go find a new job.
Yeah, like a tutorial character.
Yeah.
Like, is there an element of this game is getting shut down? Or do you think that's too depressing?
No,
Because
I don't
that
think
makes it...
that feels like a world-ending.
Yeah, that then feels pseudo-apocalyptic, unless you then go in a more sci-fi direction of, like, can we escape the game?
Yeah. No, I think it's like...
Which I think...
The servers are going to assume to be on for the next 100 years or whatever. But you as a guy in this world, it's like, okay, well, if I've got another 80 years of this or whatever, I should go find a new job where I don't know if people are going to interact with me, like real people, as it were, are going to interact with me. But, standing in this frozen field for the next 80 years doesn't sound fun. So I'm going to go find something new to do.
Yeah. I could easily see this as like a belonging outside belonging game.
Yeah, I could see this.
Video game country.
Like I'm saying, I think it's like maybe like a wander home thing where like you're wandering through like the different zones of like I think you'd either like make up the world or you could play it in like, oh, I was a big fan of World of Warcraft 20 years ago, so let's play it in World of Warcraft now.
Yeah, it does seem perhaps more World of Warcraft MMO coded than Neopets. But also, like, this does feel like it could be a very you game.
I could see myself writing this, yeah.
And I think it loses a lot of its depressive edges. Its depressing edges are given a sort of softness by the fact that you are a group of characters together.
Yeah. It's like Wreck-It Ralph is a bit depressed at the start, but he finds his found family at the end, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose, like, it being a Wreck-It Ralph game is the direction if you wanted to shut down the service or something. Or yeah, it could even be a fucking single-player world, like, if you wanted. But yeah, I could see you. I think that's... Did you have a last idea that could be threaded into this on the Neopets one?
I did, but I don't know if we could make this a third class.
Fair.
But, so there was this Flash... So Neopets was just a collection of Flash games with the pet collecting wrapper around it, basically, as I remember it. And so one of them was called Hannah and the Ice Caves, and it was like a platformer in a collection of caves, and you had to collect the gems and whatever. And you could make your own levels, which is my favourite part. But I realised when I was writing these out that it's basically just Spelunky 10 years before it was actually made. And this entire podcast has been just a thread to make me to let me make people aware that Hannah and the Ice Caves was just Spelunky 10 years before Derek, you thought of it. And that's the game. You need to figure out how to make people aware of that.
Maybe the class here, if it's a player class, like as in a class where maybe it's, or something else, is someone who's like very proud of the game world.
Yeah. You're like trying to start events and stuff to like get players back in.
Or like specifically believes the game world has been very influential on society at large.
So what, you're a player character trying to preach the word of...
Yeah, this feels like it's religion, like a religion coded character, but the religion is for just like believing the game. Like, well, this game world was actually one of the first things that let you have like a female character or have clothing options that weren't gender locked. So, we can't I think the game world we occupy probably had a massive impact on gender equality.
I think that's maybe like a character you could play. I don't know if that's a full class.
Yeah, true, because it's personality rather than narrative struggle coded.
But no, the real pitch for that one was it's a game about making custom levels in a dungeon crawler or whatever. And every time you make a new level, you add rules each time until you make a new game entirely.
A sort of rules-based improv game atop of a.
Yeah, kind of like telephone rules, telephone, I guess. But
Yeah, I could see that being fun, or even just like even less a full game, even just like a set of GM tools that you could
yeah,
then apply to any kind of dungeon crawling game, or is even like solo prep work if someone wanted to make a dungeon.
yeah, it kind of reminds me of the old Adventure Zone arc where they're in like a game show, and each room is like a different game show sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there's something to the idea of, I guess, what your host figure is there. Like I think it does insinuate at least a more antagonistic GM dynamic. That depends. I suppose that depends on what the rules are. The rules could easily
Yeah,
be two-way inconveniences or allowances or whatever.
yeah, I think that in my head it's like an OSR basic game. Like you've got rules for attacking and searching or whatever, and then at the start of each room or whatever, you add like, oh, well, swinging a sword with just a d20 is boring, so let's make it roll under now, or let's make it 2d6, or and then by like
Mm.
room 7, it's like, okay, well, you need to like stack your dice up and roll your dice into it, and if you add up the numbers of the added up dice, and
So rule erasing and rewriting rather than just addition.
I think you have like addition as well. So it's like, oh well, if you want to use magic, you have to say a rhyming phrase and
Mm.
whatever. And then you keep stacking these things up until it's like it's totally not OSR at all anymore. But like, yeah, you started playing OSR, so it's still OSR.
You kind of want it just exquisite corpse game design.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I
And it's only
I
comprehensible to
see the idea.
the table that's been playing it the whole time.
um, yeah, I mean that's true of most RPGs. um, I have been. I yesterday with my housemate watched the first 3 episodes of the new show by the creator of Derry Girls, How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. Have
My
you
mum and
seen
dad
any
were
of that or
talking
heard
about
about it?
that. I want to watch it. I like Debbie Girls, so I'll probably give it a go.
Yeah. Do you know much about like the setup of it?
It's about doomsday preppers or something in Belfast.
No.
No, that might be a different show.
Um, I think I know what show you might be confusing it with, or confusing that plot detail with. But it's about like, well, there were 4 friends. This stuff that I'm about to say is revealed in the first episode. Like, seemingly is setting up to be a quite twisty show, but this stuff
Yeah,
is just set up, not spoilers. Like 4 friends who were very bonded by like an event that happened when they were in secondary school, and like the immediate insinuation is that like a murder they were involved in. Then move on with life. It's set 20 years later, and one of the friends has died, and they are all invited to. Um, they're given an email by a supposed sort of like a sister-in-law of the dead friend who they mostly lost contact with, um, asking them to come to a wake, and then from there it develops more into sort of mysteries about like both what might have happened to the friend or what hasn't happened to this friend and what that could be related to the other thing. But I felt like that's an interesting kind of like character focus setup of like being bonded by some kind of extreme event in the past and then reuniting later. In the case of How to Get to Heaven from Belfast, like 3 of the friends stayed in touch and the 4th didn't, the one who's
dead. Yeah,
died. But like you can't. I don't know. I also think of just like I think like reunion stuff is an interesting character dynamic, especially in TTRPGs, where you can establish a lot of like grounding details about your characters, but then are also given lots of room to improvise by the fact of like, well, that was a long time ago.
yeah. I've changed since then, but it's like you still did all that stuff.
Yeah. Like I think there's maybe a game in here.
Yeah,
I think obviously that's a setup you could apply to lots of different stuff. Like, I think the interesting thing about it could be doing a sort of modern thriller-esque thing without many like sci-fi or fantasy elements, or with none. Like that could be an interesting
Yeah.
setup. Or at the same time, you could use that as a setup in different things. I was randomly thinking you could go sort of Lynchian about it. Like I did randomly have the thought when I was thinking about this was like, what's a world where like Laura Palmer killed Bob, and what happens 20 years after that if you're going in a sort of
Yeah.
different thing. I assume maybe I'll like finish the show and this could inspire some idea. Or do you have any ideas based on
I
just
mean,
me like just this base idea of like yeah, bonded by some event in the past, but
yeah.
then reuniting?
In my head, it could be like a Brindlewood Bay sort of hack in Brindlewood, I think you call it, where it's like throughout the game, you're like trying to work out what the event that you did was. Like, did you murder somebody? Did you kidnap somebody? Did you, do some big crime? Do some big theft or something? And it's like you're trying to cover it up from somebody who's digging up the past. So it's like rather than playing as the detectives, you are the people trying to hide the evidence, as it were.
Mm. I get what you mean, though I think it would maybe be too alienating from your own characters to be like, oh, we don't actually know what it was.
No, I mean, like, you could say at the start, okay, 20 years ago we killed somebody. But then as you're playing, you're, like, finding out the details so that you can hide them.
Oh, yeah. So it's a more how we did it rather than a what do we
Yeah.
do.
It's like
Yeah,
the show How to Get Away with Murder. At the start, they kill somebody, and then they skip back 6 months to, like, show them all becoming friends and learning how to get away with murder because they're all law students. So it's like, and then they keep flashing back to this same night throughout the entire season of them trying to get rid of the body.
yeah. I think there's an interesting nonlinear thing you could do there. This is another interesting thing about the show, which I'll avoid diving into spoilers in it. But like, a lot of stuff is revealed very quickly. Not necessarily to characters, but to the audience. And I was thinking about dramatic irony. And I
Yeah.
think there can be something interesting if you're doing some kind of like mystery thing, but also not wanting people to get lost to, yeah, if you use a lot of dramatic irony and are doing maybe sort of short GM focused mini scenes where tidbits of information are revealed, but the characters still don't know that stuff. And it's more about, okay, how do I, with the information I as a player have, how do I find a way to now let the character discover that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
tonight
Also,
was.
it reminds me of some of the things I was thinking about in my like noir game I planned. Similar,
Yeah.
like I think dramatic irony is a thing that I think it makes sense to avoid it because obviously, like no one entirely wants to sit for a very long scene of a GM talking to themselves.
It's like I can understand it at the start or the end of a session. It's like set up, but I couldn't be like in the middle of a session. So I think like you could maybe get away with it if you're like, okay, we're going to take 10 minutes, go get a soda, go get a cup of tea, and then reintroduce it with a bit of innovation. But I don't think you can like cut to innovation.
I'm I'm not sure I agree with that just as a you can't. But
Well,
also I
I
do
think
think, yeah,
it,
if it's
it might break the
structured
magic
more.
circle, as it were.
Yeah, no, I get the argument you're saying. I'm not sure I'm convinced by it. But I do also think, yeah, if it's more built into the structure of a game in terms of like, oh, this amount of stuff is found out, and then that maybe will prompt whatever short interlude narration scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, like this also, if we're just focusing on some kind of mystery thing, I think you could use a similar setup, less even focused on a mystery and more like, oh, what if someone is coming for revenge, and it's more like a escape kind of thriller thing,
Yeah.
a la your sort of collaterals or whatever. Collateral's a bad example, but that's in terms of plot, but vibe, I mean. But like,
Your Scream
yeah, that
2.
yeah, like that's one sort of option. Or yeah, you could go into like sort of slasher places or whatever. I mean, it's a thing where like this is a quarter of an idea, which is an interesting character setup, which I do think is I like writing and also playing games where like the characters' relationships, like there's a lot of thought in what they are at a starting point. But I think there's not necessarily the other three quarters of a game that would make this a full idea, you know?
Yeah, you need another. There's something else that's need, like a bit of salt or something that's needed to make this properly. Like, oh yeah, I can see that on a shelf.
Yeah, or I think, yeah, just some kind of this is a very interesting muscle, but the game, it's not attached to a skeleton at this
Yeah,
point in the podcast episode. Um we're probably at time, but Chloe, why don't you
Kayla.
tell us about some of the things you have on sale?
I mean, it's everything. Go by Goblin Country. It's a game about goblins who are displaced from their land, and it's not explicitly about Palestinians, but I'm not gonna say it ain't. We got Tournament Arc. It's about sports anime. Go to Battle Hill Academy and play
Or didn't you?
basketball.
Isn't the story of Goblin Country that like you just wrote it that way and people were like, "Oh, is this a reading you could make?"
Oh, I wrote it, and then when I went back to like make the proper zine version of it, I was like, oh wait, this is totally about like colonialism and shit. And I'd struggled for like 2 months, like to work out how to not make it like that. And then Alyssa was just like, don't change anything. Just be like, yeah, it's not that. But it is. It is. The game doesn't make reference to it, but like absolutely valid reading.
Hmm. Uh, what are the games on your sale that we've done on the show? I guess like Mouse in the House came from here.
Yeah, I mean, Mouse in the House. Is that it? Maybe, possibly.
I think
Oh,
I
No
have
Picnics in the
made
Dungeon. We also talked about that. Yeah, we also
yeah,
made that
I
on
think
here.
I've made more
Yeah.
games from Game Soup, but you have made some.
Yes.
And you can buy those on sale right now and
The
help
link is in the
Chloe get
description.
back on the road.
Please, I need a car to get to Aircon.
Ooh, yeah, there's a countdown on it.
Thank you for listening to Game Soup.
Bye.